we do hear a lot of just the Democrats are against Trump, but we don't hear a lot of what they're actually for, which is problematic. And it kind of seems to me like they don't really have a cohesive message. And I think the reason for that is partly because what we're hearing, I mean, the people who were at these protests over the weekend, I don't see them as actually representative of the Democratic Party as a whole. So I think there's a fracture within the party, which we've kind of seen and heard a little bit about before, but I think it's pretty apparent now because the message that they're sending, that they've sent over the weekend, for example, this used to be the party of gun control, and now we're hearing them. We've seen videos of them calling for shooting of ICE agents and putting bullets in the heads of their political opponents. So it kind of seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect within the party. And yes, again, we're seeing it's mostly we are against Trump. Okay, but specifically, what are you against? What is the specific policy that you are against? No kings. Great, okay. We don't have a king, and we all know that. We know that we're not supposed to take this phrase literally, but what about the policies that are in place right now do you think are authoritarian? And what do you want instead? So we're hearing a lot of slogans and phrases and kind of catchphrases, and really that leaves the message without substance, and it's a lot of just, look at me, we're against you, but there's nothing that they're really putting forth as a solution. I would hope at this point that people realize that they can't just vote party line, which has been sort of a call for some time to vote the policy and not the party line, right? But it's more apparent now because there is no clear party policy that everyone can kind of agree upon. I don't think that it's lost on voters that there are these horrible texts that came out recently from Jay Jones. And the strange thing is that there are very few people who are condemning these texts. But I think the reason for that is that the party of tolerance, right, the Democrats, is actually, it's become a very intolerant party. So if you have people condemning these texts, this sort of violent political rhetoric and things like that, they don't want to be alienated by their own party. Look at what they've done or tried to do to John Fetterman. When he tries to think for himself instead of have the party tell him what to think, they ostracize him. I think that is kind of the reason that we're in this weird place with our leaders, because everyone is kind of being quiet. There are, of course, some people coming forward and saying this is wrong. There are some people coming forward and saying, yeah, maybe it was wrong, but he apologized, so it's fine. But there's no real consensus within the party, as I believe there should be, to actually condemn this kind of language, because it does not show leadership. And as Democrats, you would think that the leaders of that party would come out and say, okay, this is not representative of our party. We know this does not represent you as voters, as citizens. We are going to do things differently. Here's how. These two situations have to be looked at very differently. You have to look at the person behind the horrible language that was put out. And yes, in both of these instances, there was horrible language put out there in the universe. But they are very different circumstances and situations, and they deserve to be evaluated differently. And the apology, to me, there was a stark difference between the two apologies that we received as a general public. One of them, from Jay Jones, seemed that it seemed to be remorseless, and just to make sure that it did not hurt his political career moving forward. Whether I can't speak to how he actually feels. If he actually feels remorse, this is just how it comes across. And we know in politics, the truth doesn't really matter. It's how it seems. So to me, and to maybe a lot of voters, it seemed insincere. Now, on the other hand, you have the situation in Maine where there was a 5-minute long apology video, but it wasn't a video that seemed to be put out there for the specific purpose of making sure that past wrongs didn't destroy a future career. Regardless of whether voters come out the same way, regardless of whether they say, okay, these actions, these words are inexcusable, we're still going to say this disqualifies you just by default. I think we have to look to the person behind these words and these apologies and see which one is actually real, which one shows potentially that there's an acknowledgement of, yes, I was that person. I'm not going to deny that. But that is my identity. Then I recognize that person, but I do not recognize that person as I am today. And today, these are my values. Is it an excuse? Who knows? In a different situation, without layering on the discussion about PTSD and veterans, we might look at it differently. The point is that every situation has to be evaluated separately, but the conversation has to still be had over what to do within our Democratic Party about this violent rhetoric that it's basically being accepted right now. What we're about to see, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do think there's going to be a shift toward the middle, because I think there's going to be a realization that we are leaving out, and by we, I mean all Americans in general, were forgetting from both sides of the political aisle about the middle. I think there's going to be a shift a little bit towards speaking to the people in the middle, because what we're seeing right now from the Democrat Party, they're unrecognizable. And I think that the leaders are going to start to come out and say, this does not represent our party. I represent our party. I'm going to bring us back to what our values initially were. Ironically, they've kind of lost their identity. And I think that there will be this realization that the loudest voices on either side of the political aisle are not necessarily representative of the entire party. And I think that people are going to be forced to say no to this kind of uncivil discourse that we're seeing, because people, we citizens, are going to get very tired of seeing our leaders behave in very childish and frankly disrespectful ways toward each other. These are not supposed to be the way our elected leaders act. And I would hope that there emerge some actual leaders and not just politicians in the future who recognize that they need to speak to everyone and not just a small niche in their party.